We are live.
Yay! It is hump day. Sanji. Uh, Danny 3. Before I forget again, I am Old New Dude. He is,
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
and this is Danny 3, Clash of Kings.
Let's see if my
Um,
lips turn blue.
at least it's not the blue milk from Star Wars.
It's not the same shirt. This one isn't. No,
All right.
to answer that question, I watched the shirt before I went to Tyson Park. I watched it after I got back, and then I only wear it during the streams.
I was lucky and found one of my Old New Dude shirts. Normally I can't find them. My daughter, the almost 16-year-old, is in charge of folding clothes, and I never know where they end up. So, uh, what does it say?
The other one's in the wash, lol.
All right. Did I
No,
seem a
it's the
little out of
Danny
it today?
chapter. It's the Danny
Yeah.
chapter. I got to wear lemon cake.
Um, there was a change in my medication, so today I am antsy. So I apologize ahead of time if I come off that way. But if you've seen any of these chapter or videos, we start the brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter, and then I'll jump in with my stupid stuff. But before we go, hey, or get going, Sanji, Charles, Lizzie, we all appreciate y'all being here. And
Absolutely.
Lady Thistle, I'm sure you're out there. We're up to 6, so there's a
She's
couple
already
more
said
down there.
sup. You don't need to be sure she's out there. She's already said sup. See?
Okay. All right. Sorry.
No problem.
All right. Take it away, Richard.
Clash 40, Daenerys 3. Quaithe has eyes wet and shiny. I'm always out there.
There you go.
The drapes kept out the dust and heat of the streets, but they could not keep out disappointment. Danny climbed inside wearily, glad for the refuge from the sea of Carthene eyes. Make way, Jogo shouted at the crowd from horseback, snapping his whip. Make way for the mother of dragons. Like on another planet out there. So Danny's a mother goddess figure, and the mother goddess Asherah was associated with dragons long before she was associated with the trees. See Triplet Guardians episode 1. Anyway. I see deep sadness written upon your face, my knight of love. He offered her a goblet. Could it be the sadness of a lost dream? Or my light of love, sorry. A dream delayed, no more. Danny's tight silver collar was chafing against her throat. She unfastened it and flung it aside. The collar was set with an enchanted amethyst that Zaro swore would ward her against all poisons. The pureborn were notorious for offering poison wine to those they thought dangerous, but they had not given Danny so much as a cup of water. They never sought me for a queen, she thought bitterly. I was only an afternoon's amusement, a horse girl with a curious pet. The breaker of chains casts off her own collar. She was garbed after the Carthene fashion. Zero had warned her that the enthroned would never listen to a Dothraki, so she had taken care to go before them in flowing green samite with one breast bared, silvered sandals on her feet, with a belt of black and white pearls about her waist. For all the help they offered, I could have gone naked. Perhaps I should have. She drank deep. The Carthene gown allows a hint at the beauty of Quaithe. Also, George definitely likes titties.
Yeah, it's true.
Lizzie says too. Descendants of the ancient kings and queens of Karth, the pureborn commanded the civic guard and the fleet of ornate galleys that ruled the straits between the seas. Daenerys Targaryen had wanted that fleet, or part of it, and some of their soldiers as well. She made the traditional sacrifice in the Temple of Memory, offered the traditional bribe to the keeper of the long list, sent the traditional persimmon to the opener of the door, and finally received the traditional blue silk slippers, summoning her to the Hall of a Thousand Thrones. What do we got? Me as well. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
The pureborn heard her pleas from the great wooden seats of their ancestors, rising in curved tiers from a marble floor to a high domed ceiling painted with scenes of Karth's vanished glory. The chairs were immense, fantastically carved, bright with goldwork and studded with amber, onyx, lapis, and jade, each one different from all the others, and each striving to be the most fabulous. Yet the men who sat in them seemed so listless and world-weary that they might have been asleep. They listened, but they did not hear or care, she thought. They are milkmen indeed. They never meant to help me. They came because they were curious. They came because they were bored, and the dragon on my shoulder interested them more than I did. Should have tried giving the traditional hand job, just saying. We don't know because you didn't try. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that one either.
No, I mean, she mentioned that maybe she should have been naked. She was kind of moving in that direction.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell me the words of the pureborn, prompted Zarozo and Daxos. Tell me what they said to sadden the queen of my heart. They said no. The wine tasted of pomegranates and hot summer days. They said with great courtesy, to be sure, but under all the lovely words, it was still no. Did you flatter them? Shamelessly. Did you weep? The blood of the dragon does not weep, she said testily. Zaro sighed. You ought to have wept. The Carthene wept often and easily. It was considered a mark of the civilized man. The men we bought, what did they say? Mathos said nothing. Wendello praised the way I spoke. The exquisite refused me with the rest, but he wept afterward. Alas, the Carthene should be so faithless. Zara was not himself of the pureborn, but he had told her whom to bribe and how much to offer. Weep, weep for the treachery of men. Dany would sooner have wept for her gold. The bribe she tendered to Mathos Malarawan, Wendello Cardiff, and Egon Amoros the Exquisite might have bought her a ship or hired a score of sellswords. Suppose I sent Sir Jorah to demand the return of my gifts, she asked. Suppose a sorrowful man came to my palace one night and killed you as you slept, said Zaro. The sorrowful men were an ancient sacred guild of assassins, so named because they always whispered, I am so sorry, to their victims before they killed them. The Carthene were nothing if not polite. It is wisely said that it is easier to milk the stone cow of Pharos than to wring gold from the pureborn. So someone will send a sorrowful man after Dany, so I suppose this counts as foreshadowing. Dany did not know where Pharos was, but it seemed to her that Qarth was full of stone cows. The merchant princes, grown vastly rich off the trade between the seas, were divided into 3 jealous factions: the Ancient Guild of Spicers, the Tourmaline Brotherhood, and the 13, to which Zaro belonged. Each vied with the others for dominance, and all 3 contended endlessly with the pureborn. And brooding over all were the warlocks with their blue lips and dread powers, seldom seen but much feared. She would have been lost without Zaro. The gold that she had squandered to open the doors of the Hall of 1,000 Thrones was largely a product of merchants' generosity and quick wit. I wonder if not being of them makes a difference on how you make offerings, and how you make those offerings making you as a nobody or somebody. Seems feasible?
Yeah.
As the rumor of living dragons had spread through the east, ever more seekers had come to learn if the tale was true, and Zarozo and Daxos saw to it that the great and the humble alike offered some token to the mother of dragons. So Zaro made sure that Dany profited, but he also advised Dany to make ineffective bribes. So in a way, he was kind of raising money and giving it to the pureborn.
Yeah.
A widow brought the dry corpse of her husband, covered with a crust of silvered leaves. Such remnants were believed to have great power, especially if the deceased had been a sorcerer, as this one had. And you could kind of think, since we believe Ned was having wolf dreams at the end there, you could kind of say that he was sort of a sorcerer, so maybe his bones could have power. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Yeah.
And the Tourmaline Brotherhood pressed on her a crown wrought in the shape of a 3-headed dragon. The quills were yellow gold, the wings silver, the heads carved from jade, ivory, and onyx. The crown was the only offering she'd kept. The rest she sold to gather the wealth she had wasted on the pureborn. Zara would have sold the crown, too. The 13 would see that she had a much finer one, he swore, but Dany forbade it. Viserys stole my mother's crown, and men called him a beggar. I shall keep this one, so men will call me a queen. And so she did, though the weight of it made her neck ache. Yet even crowned, I am a beggar still, Dany thought. I've become the most splendid beggar in the world, but a beggar all the same. She hated it, as her brother must have. All those years of running from city to city, one step ahead of the usurper's knives, pleading for help from archons and princes and magisters, buying our food with flattery. He must have known how they mocked him. Small wonder he turned so angry and bitter. In the end, it had driven him mad. It will do the same to me if I let it. So both LML and the Order of the Green Hand have videos claiming there's no evidence Dany will go mad. And I'm not claiming there's definitive evidence, but these two sentences are some serious foreshadowing, and there's another blatant foreshadowing of that later on in this chapter. As another one of your hosts, Eliana of Girls Gone Canon, has written, Dany is implied through a triple Shakespearean reference to be King Lear. In Netflix's Queen Charlotte, they specifically removed King Lear from the library because it implies the king is going mad. If a Shakespearean tragic hero is not a villain, it is at least villain adjacent. I get whiplash when LOL claims George is consistent with blood sacrifice being evil, and also claiming that the character who burns Murray Ma's door and tortures little girls because their fathers may have witnessed something is purely good. Ned is a hypocrite. There's evidence Catelyn had consistently abused and not just ignored Jon. Jaime murdered Jory. Loving these characters doesn't mean that they didn't and won't do some terrible things.
It's true. How dare you speak of Jaime?
Yeah. He tells Dany to make these offerings, and the pureborn are laughing at her. LOL. Yeah, basically. Part of her would have liked nothing more than to lead her people back to Vaes Teloro and make the dead city bloom. No, that is defeat. I have something Viserys never had. I have the dragons. The dragons are all the difference. Make way, you milkmen! Make way for the mother of dragons, Jogo cried, and the Carthian moved aside, though perhaps the oxen had more to do with that than his voice. Through the swaying draperies, Dany caught glimpses of him astride his gray stallion. From time to time, he gave one of the oxen a flick with the silver-handled whip she had given him. Aggo guarded on her other side, while Rakaro rode behind the procession, watching the faces in the crowd for any sign of danger. Ser Jorah she had left behind today to guard her other dragons. The Exile Knight had been opposed to this folly from the start. He distrusts everyone, she reflected, and perhaps for good reason. Littlefinger would approve. As Dany lifted her goblet to, and once again, she's betrayed by her most trusted person, right? We've talked about this as a consistent pattern in the books, right?
Yeah.
She's not betrayed here. Well, I mean, she's sort of betrayed here because he's certainly spying on her all the time. But anyway, as Dany lifted her goblet to drink, Rhaegal sniffed at the wine and drew his head back, hissing. Your dragon has a good nose. Zara wiped his. Dany is still comparing herself with her brother, but she is starting to become her own person. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your dragon has a good nose, Zara wiped his lips. The wine is ordinary. It is said that across the Jade Sea they make a golden vintage so fine that one sip makes all other wines taste like vinegar. Let us take my pleasure barge and go in search of it, you and I. The Arbor makes the best wine in the world, Dany declared. Lord Redwine had fought for her father against the usurper, she remembered. One of the few to remain true to the last. Will he fight for me as well? There was no way to be certain after so many years. Come with me to the Arbor, Zaro, and you'll have the finest vintages you ever tasted. But we'll need to go in a warship, not a pleasure barge. I have no warships. War is bad for trade. Many times I've told you, Zaro's own Daxus is a man of peace. Zaro's own Daxus is a man of gold, she thought, and gold will buy me all the ships and swords I need. I have not asked you to take up a sword, only to lend me your ships. He smiled modestly. Of trading ships, I have a few, that is so. Who can say how many? One may be sinking even now, in some stormy corner of the Suffolk Sea. On the morrow, another will fall afoul of corsairs. The next day, one of my captains may look at the wealth in his hold and think, all this should belong to me. Such are the perils of trade. Why, the longer we talk, the fewer ships I'd like to have. I grow poorer by the instant. Yeah, right. Anyway, give me ships and I will make you rich again. Marry me, bright light, and sail the ship of my heart. I cannot sleep at night for thinking of your beauty. Dany smiled. Zaro's flowery protestations of passion amused her, but his manner was at odds with his words. While Ser Jorah had scarcely been able to keep his eyes from her bare breast when she'd helped her into the palanquin, Zaro hardly deigned to notice it, even in these close confines, and she had seen the beautiful boys who surrounded the merchant prince, flitting through his palace halls in wisps of silk. You speak sweetly, Zaro, but under your words I hear another no. This iron throne you speak of sounds monstrous, cold, and hard. I cannot bear the thought of jagged barbs cutting your sweet skin. The jewels in Zaro's nose gave him the aspect of some strange, glittery bird. His long, elegant fingers waved dismissal. Let this be your kingdom, most exquisite of queens, and let me be your king. I'll give you a throne of gold, if you like. When Karth begins to paw, we can journey round to Et and search for the dreaming city of the poets, to sip the wine of wisdom from a dead man's skull. So this reminds me of old Nan's inaccurate racist tales of wildlings from the second paragraph of Brand's first chapter.
Yeah.
I mean to sail to Westeros and drink the wine of vengeance from the skull of the usurper. She scratched Rhaegal under one eye, and his jade-green wings unfolded for a moment, stirring the still air in the palanquin. A single perfect tear ran down the cheek of Xaro Xhoan Daxos. Will nothing turn you from this madness? This is yet another hint at Dany's quest turning her mad. I really do think King Lear is the specific Shakespearean tragedy to focus on if you want to know where Dany's story is going. Nothing, she said, wishing she was as certain as she sounded. If each of the 13 would lend me 10 ships, you would have 130 ships and no crew to sail them. The justice of your cause means naught to the common men of Qarth. Why should my sailors care who sits upon the throne of some kingdom at the edge of the world? I will pay them to care. With what coin, sweet star of my heaven? With the gold the seekers bring. That you may do, Xaro acknowledged, but so much caring will cost dearly. Well, will cost dear, sorry. You will need to pay them far more than I do, and all of Qarth laughs at my ruinous generosity. If the 13 will not aid me, perhaps I should ask the Guild of Spicers or the Tourmaline Brotherhood. Xaro gave a languid shrug. They will give you nothing but flattery and lies. The Spicers are dissemblers and braggarts, and the Brotherhood is full of pirates. Then I must heed Pyat Pri and go to the Warlocks. Then to drink from a skull, my small counsel assures me is the usurper's skull. Exactly. Yes. The merchant prince sat up sharply. Pyat Pri has blue lips, and it is truly said that blue lips speak only lies. Heed the wisdom of one who loves you. Warlocks are bitter creatures who eat dust and drink of shadows. They will give you naught. They have naught to give. Now she has his attention.
Oh, yeah.
Essos is like the Egypt of A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, Shopmill. Yeah. That's pretty good. Although the Targaryens are the ones that are the pharaohs sleeping, marrying brother to sister. I would not need to seek sorcerer's help if my friend Xaro Xhoan Daxos would give me what I ask. I've given you my home and heart. Do they mean nothing to you? I've given you perfume and pomegranates, tumbling monkeys and spitting snakes, scrolls from lost Valeria, an idol's head and a serpent's foot. I've given you this palanquin of ebony and gold, and a masthead of bullocks to bear it, one white as ivory and one black as jet, with horns inlaid with jewels. She took the pomegranates, but she's not staying here in the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Dany said, but it was ships and soldiers I wanted. Did I not give you an army, sweetest of women? 1,000 knights, each in shining armor. The armor had been made of silver and gold, the knights of jade and beryl and onyx and tourmaline, of amber and opal and amethyst, each as tall as her little finger. 1,000 lovely knights, she said, but not the sort my enemies need fear, and my bullocks could not carry me across the water. Why are we stopping? The oxen had slowed notably. So, I emphasize certain specific words there, and we've actually seen some of those words already in this chapter.
Yeah, a lot of them.
If he's a man of peace, WTF does he want with dragons? Is he just going to sell them? I mean, some people argue peace through strength, and that's certainly the idea of a nuclear deterrent and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so, I think the show had it right. If he does get a dragon from Dany, then he would make himself king.
Yes, Charles, we're going to go ahead and read all the quotes that allude to this, so let's go ahead and do it. Game Daenerys 9. I'm going to emphasize the same words here. Yee-tee. Anyway. Ghosts line the hallway, dressed in the faded raiment of... This is Dany in Game, or it's her 9th chapter. Ghosts line the hallway, dressed in the faded raiment of kings, and their hands were swords of pale fire. They had hair of silver and hair of gold and hair of platinum white, and their eyes were opal and amethyst, tourmaline and jade. Faster, they cried. Faster, faster. Okay. If I have a dragon next to me, we're keeping that peace. Okay, fair enough. All right. Next, we have Dance, Tyrion's first chapter. Illyria was reclining on a... and I mentioned this because it's interesting that this also ties into these. So what does it say about Illyrio and maybe how whatever prophecy he might be working from could tie back to the Emperor Empire of the Dawn or something. Anyway, we'll have to we can only speculate, but I just want to hit the specific ones that have these overlapping references here. Illyrio was reclining on a padded couch, gobbling hot peppers and pearl onions from a wooden bowl. His brow was dotted with beads of sweat, his pig's eyes shining above his fat cheeks. Jewels danced when he moved his hands. Onyx and opal, tiger's eye and tourmaline, ruby, amethyst, sapphire, emerald, jet, and jade, a black diamond and a green pearl. I could live for years on his rings. I could live for years on his rings, Tyrion mused, though I need a cleaver to claim them. So anyway, this is kind of a reference to living extra long in there.
Yeah.
And of course, it has the same 4 and some other ones, and some of these are going to overlap with some of the other ones, other extras as well here. And yes, Charles, the world from the World Book, dominion over mankind then passed to his eldest son, who was known as the Pearl Emperor and ruled for 1,000 years. The Jade Emperor, the Tourmaline Emperor, the Onyx Emperor, the Topaz Emperor, and the Opal Emperor followed in turn, each reigning for centuries. Yet every reign was shorter and more troubled than the one preceding it. For wild men and baleful beasts pressed at the borders of the great empire. Lesser kings grew prideful and rebellious, and the common people gave themselves over to avarice, envy, lust, murder, incest, gluttony, and sloth. When the daughter of the Opal Emperor succeeded him as the Amethyst Empress, her envious younger brother cast her down and slew her, proclaiming himself the Bloodstone Emperor and beginning a reign of terror. He practiced dark arts, torture, and necromancy, enslaved his people, took a tiger woman for his bride, feasted on human flesh, and cast down the true gods to worship a black stone that had fallen from the sky. Many scholars count the Bloodstone Emperor as the first high priest of the sinister Church of Starry Wisdom, which persists to this day in many port cities throughout the known world. So, port cities, Illyrio? I don't know. Viserys is a saint compared with Joffrey. Yeah, he actually does. I mean, he actually does give her some advice that actually proves useful too, right? Including how to feed the dragons.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program now that we've explored the Bloodstone Emperor, Sinister Church of Starry Wisdom, and so forth. And how it maybe ties to Illyrio, which is one of the reasons I wanted to read all those.
Yeah.
Khaleesi, ACoK called through the drapes as the palanquin jerked to a sudden halt. Dany rolled onto an elbow to lean out. They were on the fringes of the bazaar, the way ahead blocked by a solid wall of people. What are they looking at? Jogo rode back to her. A fire mage, Khaleesi. I want to see. Then you must. I don't know about that. Viserys didn't really have enough power to prove he's worse than Joffrey, but I see it. Yeah, who knows how bad this Viserys was the son of the Mad King, just so. Daenerys is something else. See, Triple Figures, episode 4. Anyway.
Right.
Then you must. The Dothraki offered a hand down. When she took it, he pulled her up onto his horse and sat her in front of him. When she could see over the heads of the crowd, the fire mage had conjured a ladder in the air, a crackling orange ladder of swirling flame that rose unsupported from the floor of the bazaar, reaching toward the high latticed roof. Most of the spectators, she noticed, were not of the city. Lizzie says 3 as well. She saw sailors off trading ships, merchants come by caravan, dusty men out of the red waste, wandering soldiers, craftsmen, slavers. Jogo slid one hand around her waist and leaned close. The milkmen shunned him. Khaleesi, do you see the girl in the felt hat? They're behind the fat priest. She is a cut purse, finished Dany. Knew that one was coming, says Lizzie. Shopnell, I hope Dany doesn't burn King's Landing, LOL. I do think that she's more likely to burn Volantis, right? I do agree with LML. She's likely to burn Volantis, and that if she burned King's Landing, it would be an accident. She's not going to. I do not think she's going to decide that she needs to massively kill innocent civilians to prove the deterrence of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I'm on the
in the books, yes, of course.
I'm on the belief that King's Landing will burn to get rid of Grayscale.
God, I hope not. I don't think she'll ever make it to King's Landing, though. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we know that bells drive John Connington mad, and that he's specifically constantly thinking about how he should have burned down the whole city.
Yeah.
So I do think it's some sort of reference to him burning something, which might be King's Landing, and it could be that as he attempts to track down Cersei hiding, so that he thinks is hiding there when she's actually fled the city or something, that he tries to burn down the city to try and find her and sets off the wildfire. I don't know. It makes a lot of sense if that's what they were told, because they certainly were focused on the concept of bells setting off a character, right, which we know set off John Cunnington. We know he's going crazy. Grayscale makes you eventually turn into an aggressive monster.
Yeah.
We know that he specifically, every time he hears bells, he thinks how he should have burned down the city. So you put all that together, and it sure feels likely that John Conn's going to be attempting to locate Cersei hiding in a parallel with Robert hiding, and right, and she's already such a parallel to Robert now. That would just make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I have a feeling she is not going to get to King's Landing. Yeah, it's quite possible. Cutpurse, finished Dany. She was no pampered lady, blind to such things. She had seen cutpurses aplenty in the streets of the free cities during the years she spent with her brother, running from the usurper's hired knives. The mage was gesturing, urging the flames higher and higher with broad sweeps of his arms. As the watchers craned their necks upward, the cutpurses squirmed through the press, small blades hidden in their palms. They relieved the prospectus of their coin with one hand while pointing upward with the other. The episode is even called The Bells. Yep.
Yeah.
What if Jon does it, but Dany gets blamed? Yeah, some people have speculated that could happen. When the fiery ladder stood 40 feet high, the mage leapt forward and began to climb it, scrambling up hand over hand as quick as a monkey. Each rung he touched dissolved behind him, leaving no more than a wisp of silver smoke. When he reached the top, the ladder was gone, and so was he. A fine trick, announced Jogo with admiration. No trick, a woman said in the common tongue. Dany had not noticed Quaithe in the crowd, yet there she stood, eyes wet and shiny, behind the implacable red lacquer mask. This also implies that she speaks Dothraki. I don't know if I knew that. She's speaking in the common tongue when she's answering him. He said a fine trick, announced Jogo with admiration, which I assume is in Dothraki, and then it's highlighted that she switched languages, right? It says no trick, a woman said in the common tongue, right? And she's always speaking common as if that's her native language. We're definitely supposed to think she's somebody. I of course think she's Ashara, who every time that Catelyn thinks of Ashara, well, both times I should say that Catelyn thinks of Ashara, she associates with the shadow or the shadowy secret. Anyway, Dany had not noticed Quaithe in the crowd, yet there she stood, eyes wet and shiny, behind the implacable red lacquer mask. It's funny how people dismiss Quaithe as Ashara when we are specifically told she has eyes wet and shiny, which in my mind is about as close as George is ever going to come to saying somebody has laughing eyes. And he has this observed by someone whose own eyes are identical to Ashara's. It's about as close as George could possibly come without making it obvious. The bells never meant surrender. Yeah, they even specifically say that in the show. Earlier on in the show, they say, "Since when do bells ever mean surrender?" It's like something they're not allowed to mean in the show, and then they mean that in the show, whatever that means. Anyway, what mean you, my lady? This is what we always want to ask Ashara. I mean, Quaithe. Half a year gone, that man could scarcely wake fire from dragonglass. This makes it sound like Quaithe has always considered glass candles to be trivial, even before the comet, right? Half a year gone, that man could scarcely wake fire from dragonglass. Lizzie says, cough, Ashara, septa, mumbles. No, that's Rayella. I'm telling you, but she also has purple eyes. Anyway. I thought that was really interesting that she specifically seems to imply that, because we hear the glass candles are burning and like they couldn't burn until dragons, but Quaithe sounds like she's able to use glass candles from long before that, the way she's speaking here.
Mm.
Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. He had some small skill with powders and wildfire, sufficient to entrance a crowd while his cutpurses did their work. He could walk across hot coals and make burning roses bloom in the air, but he could no more aspire to climb the fiery ladder than a common fisherman could hope to catch a kraken in his nets. which sort of implies that now maybe a fisherman could catch a kraken in their nets, maybe? Anyway, Dany looked uneasily at where the ladder had stood. Even the smoke was gone now, and the crowd was breaking up, each man going about his business. In a moment, more than a few would find their purses flat and empty. And now? And now his powers grow, Khaleesi, and you are the cause of it. Me? She laughed. How could that be? The woman stepped closer and laid 2 fingers on Dany's wrist. You are the mother of dragons, are you not? She is, and no spawn of shadows may touch her. Drogo brushed Quaith's fingers away with the handle of his whip. The woman took a step backward. You must leave the city soon, Daenerys Targaryen, or you will never be permitted to leave it at all. Dany's wrist still tingled where Quaith had touched her. That sure sounds kind of like Bran in the show, doesn't it? Like she's marked her.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Dany's wrist still tingled where Quaith had touched her. Anyway, where would you have me go?
That's the first time we know that she's touched her too, isn't it?
I think so. Where would you have me go? She asked. To go north, you must journey south. To reach the west, you must go east. To go forward, you must go back. And to touch the light, you must pass beneath the shadow. A shy, Dany thought. She would have me go to a shy. Will the Ashai give me an army? She demanded. Will there be gold for me in a shy? Will there be ships? What is there in a shy that I will not find in Karth? Truth, said the woman in the mask. And bowing, she faded back into the crowd. Ricardo snorted contempt through his drooping black mustachios. Now, Dany says a shy, and Quaith seems to go along with that, but you have to wonder if that's sort of like the way George seems to go along with people's interpretations when there might be more than one.
Right.
Like that's an interpretation, maybe not the interpretation.
Right. Quaith never actually said a shy, but
yeah, when we discussed this in book club, we were wondering if she makes a connection there that allows her to contact Dany with the candles. Ah, the mark is what lets her visit. I like that.
Yeah,
I think that's probably right. That makes sense. Yeah, I like it. Khaleesi, better a man should swallow scorpions than trust in the spawn of shadows, who dare not show their face beneath the sun. It is known. It is known, Ago agreed. Zaro, Zoe, and Daxos had watched the whole exchange from his cushions. When Dany climbed back into the palanquin beside him, he said, Your savages are wiser than they know. Such truths as the Ashai hoard are not like to make you smile. Then he pressed another cup of wine on her and spoke of love and lust and other trifles all the way back to his manse. Her dragons were hungry, so she chopped up a snake and charred the pieces over a brazier. They are growing, she realized as she watched them snap and squabble over the blackened flesh. They must weigh twice what they had in Vestaloro. Even so, it would be years before they were large enough to take to war, and they must be trained as well, or they will lay my kingdom waste. That could be some foreshadowing. For all her Targaryen blood, Dany had not the least idea of how to train a dragon. I saw a movie called that once. Anyway. So Jorah Mormont came to her as the sun was going down. The pureborn refused you? As you said they would. Come, sit. Give me your counsel. Dany drew him down to the cushions beside her, and Jiqui brought them a bowl of purple olives and onions drowned in wine. You will get no help in the city, Khaleesi. So Jorah took an onion between thumb and forefinger. Each day I'm more convinced of that than the day before. The pureborn see no further than the walls of Karth. And Zaro, he asked me to marry him again. Yes, and I know why. The knight frowned, his heavy black brows joined together above his deep-set eyes. He dreams of me day and night, she laughed. Forgive me, my queen, but it is your dragons he dreams of. Zaro assures me that in Karth, man and woman each retain their own property after they are wed. The dragons are mine. She smiled as Drogon came hopping and flapping across the marble floor to crawl up on the cushion beside her. He tells it true as far as it goes, but there's one thing he failed to mention. The Carthian have a curious wedding custom, my queen. On the day of their union, a wife may ask a token of love from her husband. Whatsoever she desires of his worldly goods, he must grant, and he may ask the same of her. One thing only may be asked, but whatever is named may not be denied. One thing, she repeated, and it may not be denied? With one dragon, Zaro, and Daxos would rule this city, but one ship will further our cause but little. Then he nibbled at an onion and reflected ruefully on the faithlessness of men. We passed through the bazaar on our way back from the Hall of 1,000 Thrones, she told Ser Jorah. Quaith was there. She told him of the fire mage and the fiery ladder and what the woman in the red mask had told her. I would be glad to leave the city, if truth be told, the knight said when she was done, but not for a shy. Where then? East, he said. Jorah right now thinking about Zaro. God, I wish that were me.
Notice that he says the same direction that
Yeah,
Quake
and he
did.
was telling her to go to Ashai when he first urged her to run away. It was clear that that Drogo wasn't going to survive. He specifically suggested Ashai, and now he's saying, but not for Ashai, even though he's still saying east. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure where he's going then. I am half a world away from my kingdom even here. If I go any further east, I may never find my way home to Westeros. If you go west, you risk your life. House Targaryen has friends in the free cities, she reminded him. Truer friends than Zaro or the pureborn. If you mean Illyrio Mopatis, I wonder, for sufficient gold, Illyrio would sell you as quickly as he would a slave. My brother and I were guests in Illyrio's manse for half a year. If he meant to sell us, he could have done it then. He did sell you, Sir Jorah said, to Khal Drogo. Dany flushed. Oh, wait a minute. He did sell you, Sir Jorah said, to Khal Drogo. That might imply that he sold her to someone else, right? When George does this thing where the second half changes the meaning, usually
Right.
there's a different interpretation of the first half. He did sell you. Um, part of that, well, that may include the fact that he and Jorah were spying on her for the crown.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Dany flushed. He had the truth of it, but she did not like the sharpness with which he put it. Illyrio protected us from the usurper's knives, and he believes in my brother's cause. Illyrio believes in no cause but Illyrio. Gluttons are greedy men as a rule, and magisters are devious. Illyrio Mopatis is both. What do you truly know of him? If Jorah somehow time traveled to modern times within 24 hours, we would 100% see him on To Catch a Predator. LOL, such a creep. I know that he gave me my dragon eggs. He snorted. If he'd known they were like to hatch, he would have sat on them himself. I think he knew only Dany could hatch them. If what a character says makes less sense than if they are lying, I assume they are lying. I understand why people believe what Illyrio says. The number of people that echo his lie surprises me. He knew.
Yeah.
Anyway. That made her smile despite herself. Oh, I have no doubt of that, sir. I know Illyrio better than you think. I was a child when I left his manse at Pentos to wed my sun and stars, but I was neither deaf nor blind, and I am no child now. Even if Illyrio is the friend you think him, the knight said stubbornly, he is not powerful enough to enthrone you by himself, no more than he could your brother. He is rich, she said. Not so rich as Zaro, perhaps, but rich enough to hire ships for me, and men as well. Sellswords have their uses, Sir Jorah admitted, but you will not win your father's throne with sweepings from the free cities. Nothing gets a broken realm together so quick as an invading army on its soil. I am their rightful queen, Dany protested. You are a stranger who means to land on their shores with an army of outlanders who cannot even speak the common tongue. The lords of Westeros do not know you. They have every reason to fear and mistrust you. You must win them over before you sail, a few at least. The wording can be interpreted that way too. If he knew he could do it, he would have, but he knew he couldn't. He needed Dany. Yeah, absolutely. And how am I to do that if I go east as you counsel? He ate an olive and spit out the pit into his palm. I do not know, your grace, he admitted. But I do know that the longer you remain in one place, the easier it will be for your enemies to find you. The name Targaryen still frightens them, so much so that they sent a man to murder you when they heard you were with child. What will they do when they learn of your dragons? Drogon was curled up beneath her arm, as hot as a stone and has soaked all day in the blazing sun. Rhaegal and Viserion were fighting over a scrap of meat, buffeting each other with their wings as smoke hissed from their nostrils. My furious children, she thought. They must not come to harm. The comet led me to Karth for a reason. I'd hoped to find my army here, but it seems that will not be. What else remains, I asked myself. I am afraid, she realized, but I must be brave. That's the only time you can be brave. Come the morrow, you must go to Pyat Pree. So Dany's heading to Carnival 9, the show that never ends, guaranteed to blow your head apart. None of our audience, including me, is old enough to get that reference, but it's one of my favorite songs. Up next, Clash 41, Tyrion 9. Littlefinger arranges for the hand to be ambushed. Oh. And anybody who doesn't
figure out where was Jorah wanting her to go?
Yeah, I still don't know. I mean, originally his plan to go to Ashai was just to get a ship, so maybe he's staying there. He's not trying to hang out in a shy, but he still plans on going through a shy to get to a ship.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, he tells her that you're not going to win with a foreign army, and then gets her a foreign army, basically. Well, she gets her own foreign army, but
no, you're right. It's him that convinces her to go get that specific army.
yeah. I mean, he's contradicting himself quite a bit through the travels.
Right. And George was probably George the incel. George was probably trying to foreshadow going to a shy, because I think he still probably was thinking Danny was going to go to a shy.
Yeah, but now there's not enough time.
Yeah. Well, I think he's specifically said that he's not doing that.
Yeah.
Or not physically anyway.
No, it's going to be probably through Quaith.
Mal.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another thing. Quaith is presumably still in Karth, right? I've heard people refer to her being in a shy, and she's not. Unless you think maybe no, she's definitely not. Like we just mentioned, she physically touches Dany and marks her to be able to visit her. So,
right. Not that. I mean, the Dany's blood rider saw her and moved her hand with his whip, so she's physically there.
And Joanna has definitely touched Jaime.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. You have to physically touch the person to do that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you got anything? I'm having a bad day today, so I'm sorry.
No problem. And Sammy seems to be having a bad day too here.
Yeah. Right. A slight change in medication has kind of screwed up my day. So
the Valencar's here.
Hey.
We're kind of done, but good.
Yeah, we're done. Like a lot of these chapters, it wasn't that long.
Yep.
But normally we talk about something else, but I honestly don't feel like it today. I do apologize.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. No problem. You know, we can chat on Friday. Hopefully you feel better.
Yeah, I got to send a message to
your dogs are making Baggins brave, and Baggins can only be brave when Baggins is afraid. Anyway.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see everybody on Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hopefully, I can get my my medication.
Yeah, good luck.
Tinkered with, but I'm just barking.
Hope you feel better today, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I will not be on chat.
It's probably supposed to be stream.
Yeah, I won't be on chat today, just because I'm not feeling it, so I do apologize. But yeah, we'll see everybody on Friday with Tyrion 9. And y'all take care. I appreciate it, Valencar. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all guys have a good day. We'll see y'all later.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
Bye.